Introduction. This is a 6-day travel blog. We left home about 11ish and used the truck nav to navigate to our campsite at Stray just outside Shrewsbury. The route was tortuous and should have been about 1 hour 30 minutes in duration and 77 miles in distance, but for two reasons that was not to be. Firstly, trying to avoid the M6 toll, and secondly a truck fire on the M54 outside Telford that created a nose-to-bumper diversion. Note to self: next time we go to Shrewsbury use a different route. Anyhow, we got to the beautiful Love to Stay campsite around about 2ish and checked in. The rest of our absolutely fun time can be found under each successive chronologically ordered travel blog write-ups below, i.e., fun with pals in Shrewsbury, day out in the marvellous city of Chester, and finishing in the spectacular high peaks in Derbyshire. Only real downside was the weather, wet and windy nearly all the time. Sadly, dry and sunny on the journey home from the peaks. But it didn't spoil our trip and fun. The fab Love to Stay campsite at Stray. Arrived about 2ish, checked in and set up camp on pitch FS1 near the amenities block, very convenient. Beautiful hilltop views from this pitch, 360 degrees when the sky was clear enough to see. Checked up on buses from the site, which are only every 2 hours, and stopped pretty early in the evening for the way back. Our lovely friends ferried us back both nights, for which we are eternally grateful. On the way in each day we used Shrewsbury's GoCars app, very efficient and quick, and they pick you up by the site reception, roughly £9 into town, dated September 23. Here is the marketing blurb. Love to Stay really has it all. The fully serviced resort is set in 22 acres of stunning landscape, with the Shropshire hills within easy reach and the Welsh border in striking distance. Love to Stay was created to make it easier to do something special with your downtime, so we've made sure that there's as much to do in the surrounding area as there is on site. If you're looking for a day off from driving, the medieval market town of Shrewsbury, Shropshire, is a short bus ride or taxi away. Shrewsbury is home to timber-framed black and white buildings with steep narrow streets and alleyways to discover. The castle and Shrewsbury Abbey are both worth a visit, and the River Severn flows past effortless. Try the river trip on the Sabrina. Shrewsbury town with friends, Darwin's birthplace. After arriving and setting up the van, we phoned for a taxi and had him deliver us to the Riverbank restaurant at Victoria Quay. Had a bit of a look around, and the Sabrina was just coming in from its current trip. Lovely area. We arrived about 5 p.m. and settled down at what was to be our table for the night post-cruise with a lovely, and I mean lovely, better than my prize bean to cup machine at home. Mandy and Colin arrived at about 5:30 p.m. and Neil and Maurice soon after. So lovely to catch up. After some drinkies, nibbles, and a chin wag, we crossed the road to wait for boarding. Guess what, it was starting to rain. The river trip lasted about 45 minutes and was just lovely. Leaving from the Welsh Bridge, we headed up to the English Bridge past the Posh Boys School, lovely riverside dwellings and the fun fair. The rain intensified, and apart from the endless great tunes blasting out from the speaker system and humour from the captain, it was time for the Icelandic hat to ward off the elements. I think everyone had a great time, and it was then back to the riverbank for a lovely meal. Frankly, I have no idea how the combined cruise and two-course meal was so cheap. Well done, Colin. £25.50 per head. After a lovely evening, Neil kindly drove us back to the site past the Abbey and the odd red light. The security guard, a Maury-looking guy who you definitely wouldn't mess with, let us in. Tip: you need your barrier key to get into site after 10 p.m. Bit of history for you about the origins of both bridges. During the 12th century, this stretch of the Severn served as the frontier between England and Wales, so both the English and Welsh bridges were fortified as they served as part of the town's defences. Day 1 highlights: Friends, Cruise, and Milo and Cold Blue Steel soundtrack by Her Majesty Joni. Here's the riverbank menu: far too much food but very very nice. I would especially recommend the mushroom risotto, and never fear sticky toffee pudding shared with a loved one, 2 spoons essential. Up reasonably early, breakfasted and caught the taxi from site reception to the Premier Inn where our friends were staying. We drooled from the tradesman's entrance whilst they gorged on what can only be described as a Edwardian feast of a breakfast. No scraps available for the onlookers. We had a coffee. The weather wasn't great, so Neil, Maurice and Mandy took the car to visit the Abbey and beyond on their cadful tour. Annie, Colin and I decided to brave the elements and started the town quiz. It did bucket down, so we often took shelter. It was a fun way to discover parts of the town and a bit of its history that I guess we would otherwise never have uncovered. The three of us aren't what you may call fast on our feet, so it was a fun way to travel around. Some of the cryptic stuff got harder and harder the further we were into the quiz. Colin was wonderful outside St. Mary's Church with the most confusing of questions. Some lateral thinking is required. We made a good team. I think it was after question 14 that we stopped for lunch and met up with the others at the Elbe, a nice real ale pint and some good food. Weather very variable, okay mostly rain. We headed off in two groups again, us to complete the quiz, what heroes eh? The others sightseeing. We all met up at one point, in St. Armand's Place just up from the Three Fishes in Fish Lane, Grope Lane and the home of John Wesley. Shrewsbury has got it all. A really fun day. Back to the Premier Inn to rest and bask in the glory of solving the quiz. Indeed, we were able to sit in perfect sunshine looking down Pike Hill at the end of the quiz, self-satisfied, and being curtsied to by both tourists and the police. Okay, maybe that bit is fiction, but the sunshine wasn't. Some famous folks of Shrewsbury beyond Darwin were Clive of India, Sir Philip Sidney, Jane Webb, John Wesley, Neil, Maurice, Mandy, Colin, Keith and Annie X. Day 2 highlights: Friends, Cadful Discovery, Town Quiz, Premier Inn, Rain, the Elbe for lunch and the Loopy Screw, for supper. Here is both the cover sheet and final answers page for the Shrewsbury Town Quiz. Answers missing of course, no smugly by Colin, Annie and Keith. You will have to torture us. Me heart is to get the answer, either that or it is in Davy Jones' locker. Morton Corbett Castle, English Heritage, and Church. We drove just a little way outside Shrewsbury to Shawberry and Morton Corbett Castle and Church, a free English heritage site. It used to be called Morton Torreet initially but changed names when the Torreets married into the Corbett family, the most famous of which was the fifth mistress of Henry I who bore him two children, one of whom the daughter Sibylla went on to marry Alexander I, King of Scotland. You can see the family tree related to that as seen in the church. Very interesting to visit. Shame such a regal manor was, like many others, destroyed by Cromwell's thirst for power. Corbett's claim to fame. This extract from the Corbett family history is held in the church for all to see. As genealogists we found it all very fascinating, so worth a visit. Castle and church combined, spent well over an hour there. Morton Corbett Castle is a Grade I listed building located near the village of Morton Corbett, Shropshire, England. Hyperlink https://www.englishheritage.org.uk/visit/places/Morton Corbett Castle/1. It was built in the 13th century and has been remodeled several times since then. The castle is open to visitors from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day of the week. The ruins of the castle are impressive and are the result of over 500 years of building works. The earliest surviving remains are those of a stone castle begun in about 1200, included the fine gatehouse. The Corbett family remodeled the castle in the 16th century, and the Elizabethan south wing is a rare survival from this period of a bold Italian-inspired design, which was devastated during the Civil War. Fine Corbett monuments fill the adjacent church, especially the very well-preserved crypts of both Robert and Richard and their spouses. If you're planning to visit, please note that there is limited free car parking available in the lobby next to the castle. Wheelchair access is possible to most of the site, but there are some short flights of stairs within the ruins. There are no toilet facilities at the castle. Dogs on leads are welcome. The city of Chester, Cheshire. Stayed at the Chester Ferroax site for 2 nights, a caravan and motorhome club site, listed by us as M&CC SITE tag because motorhomes are now more prolific than caravans in our humble opinion, and take far less time to set up. I would accept the use of the car by caravanners is a plus, however, but our little Wendy house auto sleeper we can park almost anywhere. It is only 5.4 meters long. We arrived at the site about 1:30 p.m., which was a good entry time. Normally at caravan and motorhome club sites folk are queued out onto the main roads before one, hoping to get in early or straight away. These are probably the folk we remember arriving on site at 9 a.m. in the old days, blocking the site for leavers. I could say inconsiderate, but who am I to criticize? Here are some details of the site. We stayed on pitch X. It was, in the warden's words, probably their worst year for rain, and as a clay undersoil the site was pretty boggy in places. Indeed, the continual rain we had whilst there didn't help either. Our pitch was slightly underwater at one point, nothing extreme but great for ducks. On the second day at the site we walked up the lane, not great traffic-wise because of the lack of pavements, and across the bit junction down to the Cheshire Oaks Designer Outlet Mall, wrestling the winds and driving rain. Hey, we are on holidays. Note, on the right-hand side there are also no pavements to get to the bus stops mid-outlet mall. The site info suggests a 10-minute walk to get the bus, and I know we are slow, but I would allow 40 minutes as the buses don't run that frequently and you don't want to miss one. Stand B for Chester, stops at the zoo as well, Stander on the way back and into Liverpool. Our trip took about 35 minutes and stopped at the new Chester bus station, where you can pick up the hop-on hop-off bus just outside. A bargain at £10 concession. We used it to go around once before lunch and once after. Had a great dinner at Chester's near the clock in, I think, Main Street. Can't recommend it enough. Here is a slideshow of our Chester stay fun. Note, it's about 7 minutes long, but will give you a great overview of what there is to see there. ESP. The second most photographed clock in the UK, Chester's Fab Fish and Chip Shop, great architecture, Roman amphitheatre, town walls and a whole lot to do. View on. The wonderfully friendly Chester town crier, David. Maybe David should be called a city crier rather than a town crier. What a lovely man, a retired junior school teacher whom we met on the X1 bus into Chester from our campsite, who then proceeded to show us around a bit, and ring us literally off the bus keef and are leaving the bus. He is quite a tourist fixture in Chester. He helped us onto the hop-on hop-off bus, which he also went around on. Just a lovely chap with a great sense of humor, hugely comfortable with the public. He even rang me in and out of the bus station loos, an essential for us aging population. It is also a well-known fact, by David mostly, that he is ye most handsome town crier in all the land. Here is his calling card. Maybe give him a ring if you need a guest speaker. At the very least use the Chester hop-on hop-off, ho-ho, bus and you may well get the opportunity to meet up with him. You won't be disappointed. One of life's great gentlemen. P.S. Victoria Coran Mitchell was nowhere to be seen, in joke. Castleton in the Peak District National Park, Derbyshire and Winnets Pass. We left the Chester site reasonably late after packing up. All the water off the pitch had now gone. Not the best journey, as around the Manchester airport area trying to get onto the A6 to travel through the peaks there was an accident, so we used a different route through some very nice Cheshire areas, eventually going past the canal areas, the Tos Riverside Park at Low Leighton and Bugsworth Basin, through to areas of the Peaks National Park we know well, going down Winnets Pass and eventually into our caravan and motorhome campsite at Castleton, not a place we have ever stayed at but one I have been to pick up our pals Lawrence and Yvonne were our site wardens at the Bolton Abbey site, so I knew where it was. A very nice site, weather not great, so we mostly spent time in and around the site and van, reading, watching stuff and generally relaxing. I like this site. Summary. That's all folks, a fab few days away in the van initially with pals, but then discovering the delights of Chester which we haven't been to for an age. City walls with the kids when they were young, was our memories, and so nice to be back in the peaks, so close to home. Note to self, spent more time there. Winnets Pass is a must if you don't know it.